Episode 39.
Oh, we're almost to 40?
Almost to 40.
Almost as old as Shane.
Almost as old as Shane.
I'm older than 40.
Well, we're catching up then. Episode 39 coming to you from the Legends Room here in Central Florida. We got a good one for you today. I'm excited for this one. This one's presented by 77 Fitness. And speaking of 77 Fitness, we have Mr. Cory Noonan with us.
Yes, sir. In
the Legends Room. Cory, great to see you and have you here with us on the show. I'm excited about this one. We were talking before we got on air. Kind of have a little bit of a personal, tie into being able to talk to you and ask some questions for you. I mean, anybody that's close to me, knows some of the things that I've gone through or am going through currently, health-wise. So anytime we get a chance to talk about fitness and the, cardio, nutrition programs and things, I get more fascinated by it by the day.
Right.
So it's exciting. And when we first started talking, I think it's been a couple weeks ago now, about doing a podcast, I'm like, man, this one's going to be a good one because there's going to be some knowledge that we get to gain and we get to share it with people listening. And one thing I want to kind of dive into here, we've talked briefly at the facility and tracks and stuff like that this isn't just about motocross. No. This is life.
Absolutely.
Right? So this is your day-to-day guy that's going to work that might be listening to this podcast. This could be a Division I athlete that's listening to this podcast. This could be a 10-year-old kid that's getting ready to go on his way to baseball practice that's going to listen. And there's going to be some really, really good info, and we've got a great list of questions that we want to line up and talk to you about. But okay. Let's start off with the history of Cory Noonan and 77 Fitness. I mean, how did we evolve to get to the point that where we're at today? I mean, when did fitness become impactful in your life?
I would say I was pretty much born into it. My dad was a fighter. So from day one, we were always involved in sports, everything.
Okay.
From early age, I was a baseball player, real good. Started riding motocross myself at about 5. My dad always rode, so I guess it was just a developed passion or a developed thing that I lived my entire life.
Yeah.
And as it evolved, I did different things. I was a broker for a while. I was in the Marine Corps.
Hoorah!
Thank you, appreciate it. And even there, fitness, everything was a huge part of it.
Definitely.
And you play sports your entire life. You go to the Marine Corps, you think all these people are, like, I'm just going to get swallowed up. And then I showed up there and realized, like, I'm actually a real athlete here. Like, I'm the top dog here. So
yeah.
I guess the realization hit. I became a broker for a while. Came home from the Marine Corps, started, and just wasn't happy.
Yeah.
I was working out, doing certain things, and but just realized that fitness is where I wanted to go.
Yeah. Kind of finding the passion, I guess.
Yeah. I guess realizing that the passion's always been there. I started coaching baseball at Springstead High School. And tried out for a professional baseball team and made it.
Nice.
Probably I was like 25 years old, and with the Pensacola Pelicans. And about a summer into it, I'm like, well, I'm 25. I don't think making $2,000 a month is going to cut it. Let's go back home, go back to the drawing board and start developing some other stuff.
Nice.
Yeah.
So talk about the riding, because we are future MX, so we've got to dabble a little bit into the riding. I mean,
of course.
What was the first bike? Is it the go-to P-Dub 50?
It was actually a Y Zinger because it was 1981.
Nice.
And what's funny? It's the same exact bike still today. It was a 91.
Yes, it is.
An 81 Y Zinger 50. It was just yellow, So went from that to a 60, KX60, and then took some time off. We moved from Massachusetts. I grew up in Cape Cod. We moved down here to Florida, and it was baseball, basketball, the traditional sports, football, things like that, and kind of got away from riding a little bit. And like I said, about 16 years old, I'm like, well, I'm not really interested in school. Let's figure something out to do, and went directly to the Marine Corps. Spent my time there, did some wonderful things, and when I come home, started right back on a bike. Another KX250, started riding again, and got linked up with some good friends around here, started riding, and started a small little team, started helping people out as much as I could. Fast Tank Racing was pretty cool. Yeah. Just small little operation, something to start helping out, started training the kids, started getting into the fitness as well, and I just realized that I was actually real good at it, and I had a knack of taking an athlete, you know, the thing with an athlete is they can have all the talent in the world, right? But they have to have heart.
Right.
You know, and if you have an athlete with heart, you can develop them into, you know, pretty much a monster in any sport. You know what I mean? Any sport that is.
Right.
You have to connect with them. You have to understand, you know, the basic science of it. You have to understand the basic science of the sport itself. But connecting with the athlete themselves is probably one of the, you know, the toughest challenges.
So, at what point was it when you had that team, or was it when you were done with baseball, where you were like searching? At what point was it okay? I want to go this route and develop and help train athletes.
I would say when I started training, when I started coaching the kids at school, I knew I had a good talent for coaching, because being an athlete is one thing, right?
Right.
But when you start coaching and start connecting with children and athletes and just, you know, young adults that are trying to develop themselves into sports, you have to have a different set of just attributes to be able to pass that on and kind of help them believe in themselves, right? And kind of get what they've got inside of them out of them. You know,
I mean, you could be the best athlete in any sport, but being able to teach and being able to relay information properly, correctly, that a potentially a child can understand. You know, that's a whole different skill set. You know, being able to be a great athlete is one thing, but to be able to be a great coach is something else.
Right.
You know, so to be able to mold those two together is awesome. When kind of going with what Shane said, when did the 77 Fitness kind of start or create and kick off?
77 Fitness has been around for about 5 years total now.
Yeah. Was that your moto number?
No, it's actually it's got a double meaning. It's the year I was born.
Okay.
And Jesus is 77 generations away from God Himself. So
okay,
that's how it kind of clicked. One day I was reading the Bible, clicking, and I just started counting for some reason. And through the genealogy, I said 77. I'm like, that's it. It's perfect.
We were born the same year.
Yeah.
Man, that's
You're
deep.
just as young as I am.
That's deep, man. That's deep.
Yeah.
So 77 Fitness been around for about 5 years now,
Yes, sir.
and you and I have talked before this show briefly that it's not just moto.
Oh no.
77 Fitness is a very broad fitness program. You mentioned, and I'm going to let you go ahead and speak on it right now, but who is some of the clientele that 77 Fitness would affect?
Well, right now I have a large amount of motocross, you know, athletes that are all over the country that I train. But I also have Division I baseball players. I've got pro athletes, MMA fighters, pretty much all sports I can connect with. But that's who I have right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I wanted to get into is that this isn't simply moto related. This is a broad spectrum. I mean, we're gonna.
I have weight loss clients. I have moms that see me training their sons. They call me and, you know, hey, I see what you're doing for my son.
Yeah.
I have fathers. I have, you know, full families that are on my entire program.
Yeah.
What does that entail? Like you writing them a program?
I do in-person training. I do that at Epic Health and Fitness in Spring Hill.
Yeah.
But I also do internet training. I have an app that I use. It's so I send out their programs through the app. They get all their information, their full workouts, and it's sent out every day. So once I leave here tonight, I'm gonna head home, build their programs for tomorrow for all my athletes, all my weight loss clients, shoot it over to them, answer any questions they have.
That's an everyday thing.
Every day.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we talked about too before this episode is that, you know, your passion for it is also exciting. You know, to see when you have somebody else that's passionate about what they're doing, it kind of rubs off on somebody else, right? So you were talking about how you leave, you know, whatever you're doing that specific day, whatever your, you know, schedule entails, but then you go home that night and then bam, we gotta get back on the grind. We got to go through the program, and I mean, you were talking about some late nights because of the amount of people that you're writing a program for, and that's pretty impressive. So, before we get kind of down into the dirty of programs and things like that, you know, anybody that's listening that wanted to reach out to 77 Fitness, what would be the best way to try and get a hold of you as far as, hey, I love the podcast, I love what you're doing, how do How do I get connected?
Either directly through Facebook, Instagram, something like that. That's generally how I get most of my just introductions to people.
Yeah. So like some direct message, anybody.
Absolutely.
And what would those be? Just 77 Fitness, or is it under Cory Noonan?
There's
or?
Cory. I have actually I've got 77 Fitness. I've got Cory Noonan both on Instagram, and I've also created a full line of supplements that should be out here soon. Scorched Earth.
Okay.
Pretty much based off all the information that I've been collecting. I'm a data junkie.
Right.
So I follow my own data, everything I do, every calorie I burn, everything. It's sometimes it gets pretty insane, but I do that for my clients as well. I'm a data junkie. I got to ask them all the questions. What did you eat today? What did you do this?
Yeah.
Are you following the program? Send me your watch programs or send me your printouts. I'm getting all this data from them, and I collect all that stuff. So within that data that I've looked at and I've studied, I built a full nutrition company. A full supplement company.
Nice.
It is geared a little bit towards high-level sports such as motocross.
Yep.
It's got the proteins, the hydration drinks, and I really don't want to give the total information out, but a recovery drink specific for motocross that is absolutely insane.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get into some of that. And again, we don't need to know all the secrets, but there's a lot of this that I, similar to what you've talked about as far as data. With what I'm going through on my own right now, I've really started to look into more of the natural side of things. We start looking at vitamins, deficiencies, minerals in the body, and, things that go. And we've talked off air about some of that stuff. So I want to kind of go through some of how do you take what I would consider, and I don't want to necessarily say this in a bad way, but how do you take an average athlete, in average by meaning, you're a good ball player.
Oh, yeah.
But how do you become elite?
First off, it starts by identifying what their long-term goal is, right? So if I'm an average ball player and I say I want to play professional baseball, right? So that's my long-term goal. Well, then I need to identify what I'm lacking. What today am I lacking that's going to hinder me from becoming that pro baseball player? Once I identify the things I'm lacking, I can start building a program that's going to start strengthening those, right? I also have to identify what I'm really good at, right? Doesn't mean that I don't quit working on it. I have to perfect it, keep perfecting it. But I take the long-term goal and I break it down with small groups. Just, for instance, say if I want to make $1,000 a week. Well, how many hours do I have to work? How many clients do I need? You take your long-term goal and break it into small-term goals that you can click off as you go towards that long-term goal.
Sure. And through that, I'm assuming, and this is what I want to get into because this is what kind of starts intriguing me. Is it the program? Is it specific parts of the program? Is it the cardio? Because I'm assuming, and I want to ask you this when we get into it. Like I'm sure there's good cardio, there's bad cardio. Again, assuming because I'm not in your position, I'm not any way near a trainer, but heart rate levels and heart rate monitors, trying to be at a certain zones, or is it nutrition? Do you focus a lot on nutrition? Is it recovery? Is there mental?
Yeah, I was gonna say mental strength
and mental training. Is that all part of this?
So, in any sport, you have to say that there's stamina and endurance, right? So stamina is your mental capacity and your physical capacity. You have to have that stamina. Endurance is the muscle's capability of lasting throughout a long-term process, right?
Right.
So yeah, obviously, mental is a huge part of it. But are you asking like, what do they need to become that pro athlete still?
No, I'm saying like, is that all part of the package, like all part of the program? Like you're detailing, I know you mentioned what'd you eat today, right? And taking that data like, okay, well, let's look at what you ate today and then let's see how your performance was, based on previous or baseline data that you have.
Right.
And then you look at like your gym workout. I'm assuming in every aspect, whether you're a baseball player, a basketball player, a football player, a motocross athlete, a triathlete, I'm assuming the gym workout's going to be different and catered to what those needs are.
Individualized, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So that's where it might not be just as simple as, hey, go ride your spin cycle for 20 minutes today. That it might not be that simple, but for you get to break it down all the way to the science and say, hey, this is what you need to be at. You need X amount of duration at X amount of heart rate.
Here's the thing with me. I treat my weight loss client just as with much detail as I do my professional athlete. because even though their objective becoming a pro athlete is pretty elite, right?
Right.
I mean, not many people get to do that.
Sure.
But to have a weight loss client, I still need to give them that same care, that same attention, right? Because their goals matter to me. They've hired me because they want me to attend to helping them reach their goals.
Yeah.
So
what would you say from your standpoint of doing this for many years now and helping multiple different people, when you look at the different elements of the program, I mean, what are some of the more critical ones for you? I mean, what would you think? I mean, is diet and nutrition more important than stamina and cardio, or is recovery and mental strength more important than diet and nutrition? I mean, or do they all kind of have their own relevance equal to each other?
And it might be might be the reason why you collect the data, because with the data is the only way you're gonna find the gains
right.
of what's happening with that person individually.
Yeah, and that's what it is you're asking kind of a broad question that's got to be individualized. So is nutrition important? For a certain client, nutrition's the most important aspect of their program, right?
Sure.
For someone that eats fairly well and their goals are different, now, and especially motocross, right? We need endurance. We need stamina. We need pretty much everything you just listed is equally as important, right?
Yeah.
So, and depending on the athlete, everything is individualized. So if I have let's just say Seth Ennis, right? Seth is at the facility.
Yep.
We have to actually add weight to him, right? So his program is individualized to making him a bigger, stronger athlete, right? Now you have Peter, who is pretty stout athlete.
Yeah.
His actual meal plan is different. His exercises should be different. His weight that he's lifting is different. His cardio is different. Things of that nature. So
yeah, well, that's cool to see that the difference between being so individualized, as far as taking away moto out of it, and we talk about being a custom program for custom people. What are some of your thoughts as far as recovery? Like you and I've talked off air. I just started doing it myself. Anybody that follows me on any of my personal stuff saw that I just started doing the ice bath thing.
amazing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I mean, it is unbelievable. I mean, I will tell you, the first minute's absolutely miserable. It's
Start questioning life.
Yeah, and you really do. You start questioning, what are you doing?
life.
And, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
I think minute 2 and minute 3 is more of survival. But then when you get out, I mean, it's just some of the best feeling that I have felt in a long time. So, little things like cold water plunges or ice baths. I mean, do you throw that into some of these guys or?
So obviously, cold plunges are excellent, right? But not everybody can just purchase a cold plunge air. If they have one, obviously I recommend it for sure.
Yeah.
But your diet, your nutrition, that's a huge amount of recovery, right? Within our body, we have what's called the ATP cycle. That's our energy cycle. That's where we drive our energy from the cells through the mitochondria, things like that. So if we're not feeding that body with the correct nutrients after the workout, prior to the workout, we're literally just burning muscle. We're going in a negative direction. So when you talk about recovery, all those things are wonderful, but some of those things are hard to access, right?
Yeah.
If everybody could access it, I'd have all my athletes in there, weight loss clients, everybody.
Yeah.
But diet, when it comes to recovery, is huge.
Okay.
Absolutely huge.
So what would be the diet? Is it getting the proteins back in?
Proteins and carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are excellent for the body. I mean, it's a great source of energy. It restores the glucose in the bloodstream.
Yeah.
But once again, individualized for the person, right?
Now, but again, even with that, and I want to be very clear here, I am not a doctor.
Yeah.
Okay.
Neither am I.
But there's good carbohydrates and bad carbohydrates.
Oh yeah, nothing processed. You never want anything processed.
Yeah. So don't go hit the Easy Mac.
No, don't.
I mean, that's what I would do.
Yeah.
Easy Mac.
I know Tyler keeps them on the shelf because he's got like 17 kids now. So
I haven't had a carb since 2011.
no. But yeah, there's good carbs and there's bad carbs, and that's where I think somebody that doesn't know the difference. That's where having someone like you involved in the program to be able to say, hey, yes, we want you to go eat carbs, but at the same time, let's not just run to the store and grab a loaf of bread, or let's not just go get whatever pasta we can find out of a box and whip it up.
Yeah.
I mean, there's good carbs, there's bad. Same thing with proteins, right? We talk about superfoods, and you and I mentioned before we went on air. Right now for breakfast, I'm doing a lot of eggs and avocado.
Excellent.
And avocado is a great protein and a great superfood.
Okay, rich man.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, that is one thing about it.
Yeah.
And I mean, we all know the grocery bills are going up.
I lay my own eggs, not me personally, but my chickens do.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that we've done here too.
And I planted an avocado tree, but it takes 10 years for them to produce fruit. So
you got to get a more mature.
It's gonna be a minute.
it's gonna be a minute before I can eat avocado.
Yeah.
Well, understanding good proteins, good carbs, bad carbs. I mean, there's a whole line of those things that you could help, people get kind of sorted through in the right direction. But, the recovery aspect of it, whether it's the ice bath, whether it's food recovery, helping them through that as well. How about rest?
Listen, you took the words right out of my mouth.
Yeah, I'm sitting here and looking at my notes, and one of the things that I've been doing a lot of research on lately with some of my own things is the importance of rest.
8 hours.
And how do you relay that to your guys? In any sport or any fashion. Especially when these are younger guys. I mean, they want to stay up late. A lot of video games are involved today's world, and trying to make them understand that rest is important.
Right. So most people think you go to the gym, you're building muscle in the gym, right? That's absolutely incorrect. When you go to the gym, you are tearing your muscles. You're creating micro tears, or for whatever exercise you're doing, or whatever your objective is.
Yeah. So you're just constantly breaking them down.
You're just breaking them down, right? So how I build the muscle is what I feed it, right? How I recover. What do I put back into that muscle? And it is actually built while I'm sleeping, right? So if I'm not getting, ample amount of sleep, my body's not giving it that time to produce that muscle or whatever, I'm trying to achieve. So
yeah.
If I'm sleeping, unfortunately for me, I'm the worst example. I probably get 5 hours of sleep, 4 hours of sleep a night, but
yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't have said that, right?
Well, no, I mean, it's true. I mean,
Well, you're up writing everybody else's programs. What do you expect?
Maybe I shouldn't have said that.
Well, I mean, it's just like Shane and I. I mean, we're early risers for work.
Yeah.
Monday mornings for us at my job. We have our safety meetings every Monday at 5:30 in the morning. Yeah. So I've got a 30-minute drive into my office. I usually get there early to make sure that we're prepared and ready for the safety meeting. So Mondays for me are easily 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning day.
Yeah.
And typically with a normal household, I've got 3 kids at home. So, I mean, we're not going to bed at 8 o'clock at night. No. I mean, we got bath time. We're trying to get them to wind down. And, it'd be lucky if we're asleep by 9, 10 o'clock at night. Usually I try to be laying down around 9 o'clock. But then when you're up at 3, that's not the greatest sleep cycle. But trying to find some of that cumulative sleep and cumulative rest. I mean, if there's a day like on a weekend where I don't have to be up at 5 in the morning, I will try to sleep till 7 if I can. But, I also have listened to many other podcasts or, YouTubes and whatnot about trying to be up before the sunlight and, get that sun rays and the vitamin D that creates. So I was just curious of your thoughts on rest and trying to get rest in today's generation.
Rest is we talked about all the aspects pretty much so far, right? We talked about the recovery, the gym aspect, the nutrition. Rest is equally as important as every single one of those.
Yeah.
Every single one.
I mean, maybe it's my age thing. And obviously, I mean, if you're doing programs for people that are for weight loss or for whatever reason, but it seems like the older I get, I just constantly, I know about the 8-hour thing. Mm-hmm. So like, I'll look at the clock. I know what time I got to wake up, and I'll be like, well, I better get with it right now, go to bed because then I'll get a full 8 hours. Mm-hmm. I probably in the last few years started like consciously thinking about that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's different. And maybe, Cory, at some point in your life, but I know for me, when I was younger, the last thing I worried about was what I was eating, how much rest I was getting, right. What quality of the food I was eating. But the older you get, I think you start to understand, like, man, now I have to start taking care of my body better because I'm not as young as I used to.
Well, yeah, your metabolism slows down. Like things change when you get older.
Things hurt now, I mean, That's why the whole ice bath comes around at, for me, 35 years old is the first time I've ever gotten into an ice bath. Even when I was playing sports all the way up through college. I mean, never got an ice bath, at that time, and never really took care of myself or my body the way that, you're learning about things today, and you're listening to Cory talking about, these things that you can do, and meals and nutrition and supplements and rest and stuff that I just never would have thought about. But, for the person that's listening right now, whether it's on any of the Spotify, Apple podcast, or watching on YouTube, I think if you could try to instill in a way for them to understand the importance of some of these items earlier, like in our world right now in motocross, a Seth Dennis, that's
how you grew up.
Yeah. It's hard to try and to get them to understand the importance of it right now.
I mean, you just said you have 3 children, right? I have 2 daughters, a 16-year-old and a 14-year-old. I could tell them everything. I could tell them every secret to the world, and they would tell me, "You have no idea what you're talking about."
Right.
You have no idea. And that's what the same thing. That's why I was saying earlier about the connection, right? We've got to connect with that athlete because they have to trust us.
Yep.
The weight loss client, they have to trust us.
Yep.
And like I said, if they're not trusting you, you can tell them they're blue in their face, like, I don't care, I'm still getting Zaxby's.
Yeah.
Like I know I'm supposed to.
Does that stress you out a little bit?
Absolutely.
Well, no, not the Zaxby's part of it, but does it stress you out because they're putting their trust into you, and obviously you want to show them results?
I wouldn't say I stress out because I'm very confident because anything I ask them to do, I know I can do myself.
Right.
And I'm willing to do it. I can turn my brain off and say, if I'm doing this, I'm doing it.
So you're never like, oh, I hope this works.
No, absolutely not. I've been pretty intense with my own athletic abilities, my Marine Corps stuff. If it comes down to fitness and just sheer will, I don't quit.
Yeah.
So and that's what I try to portray to my from my weight loss clients all the way down to my athletes, MMA fighter, whatever the case may be. I think they believe in me because they see it. They know that I'm willing to live with it. I'm willing to go down with them into the deepest area that they're at and bring them out of there with them.
Right.
So there's two sayings that I hear all the time, and one of them in moto is trust the process.
That's so crazy. That's the theme of my men's group right now in church.
Yeah.
It's so crazy you just said that.
We hear that all the time in moto, in the industry. I mean, you'll get somebody that's talking about whatever program they're on, whatever team they're on, and even in media, you get people out there and it's trust the process. Yeah. So you're trying to get them to buy into that program. But the other thing that I've heard multiple times, and I used it quite a few times because I'm slow and this is my motto, but if you look good and you feel good, you ride good.
You're right.
So if you put those together, obviously if it's a faster rider, then that goes a long way. But for me, I've always gone with, well, let's try and look as good as possible with wearing, the Oakley goggles and the Fox gear and having clean, bikes and show up to the races in a nice rig. You look good and then you feel good because you've been riding, you've been doing your exercise. And then that both translates onto the track of, feel good, look good, ride good.
I mean, you can literally psych yourself out.
That was my next question.
You can
That's a bit of a placebo, like there's things that add up.
Last year at the area qualifier, I was at, where was it at? Diamondback. And I'm on the line, I'm looking around, I'm like, oh man, look at all these, everybody's got a new bike. These guys look fast, like I'm gonna get smoked. I ended up getting second. I'm like,
I know the feeling.
And I got off the track and I was like, that was a fluke.
Yeah.
Well,
what's going to happen in the second motor?
I raced the plus 40, right, at FTR.
Yeah.
And guys our age, your age, they have all the fancy stuff.
Yeah.
And like you look like you're at a FTR in the 40 plus class. They look like a Supercross lineup. Because they're older
they
guys.
Have the money to have nice bikes.
Yeah, they have money, all the nice gear, and I was like, dude, these guys look fast. And I go out and get a 4th or a 6th out of 25, 30 guys. So I was like, oh, they're not that dang fast.
Well, I think that's some of those mottos and getting them to buy into that. That's one of those things that has to come from the individual.
Absolutely.
Right. You can try to convince them as much as you want to trust the process and buy into the program, but they have to make the commitment to do it. Mm-hmm. So it's one of those things where that is very individual. To try and reel that in. as much of we talk about trust the process, the look good, feel good, ride good, how much of sports in general is mental? I mean, I know you just talked about being psyched out on the line, but even in anything, you know, baseball player, you know, if I'm a shortstop and I'm going into that game, you got to have the mental strength and the mental ability. I mean, how do you relay that to somebody?
I mean, everything we do in life is mostly mental, right? I can't do my job effectively no matter what if I don't believe in myself. I can't create an action or do something if I don't believe in it myself, right? Especially in fitness. If I'm not mentally prepared to go do my workout, I'm not going to go do it.
Right.
I don't want to do this today. I'm just going to go home. I don't feel like doing it. I'll get it tomorrow. So for me, mental is probably 90% of the process, right? I've got to be mentally focused. I've got to be mentally ready. Got to be mentally committed to whatever I'm doing.
So how do you handle that if you find yourself in a situation with either a customer, a client, or a rider that doesn't share that mental?
Inspire them.
Yeah.
You've got, and that's where we were talking about connection. Kyle's very good at connecting with his athletes, right?
Yeah. And we're talking about Kyle Cheeseman.
Yep. Very good with connecting with his athletes. For me, I have to connect with my athlete, but I have to identify what drives them, right? And I've got to, even if they don't see it themselves, weight loss client, whatever it is, if it's their children, I got to identify the why, right? Why are you doing this? My children, you know, I'm 40 years old. I gained 30 pounds. I'm just not being able to keep up with them. And I'm not saying I use that against them, but I use that to drive them.
Right.
This is what we're doing this for. Get it in your head that it doesn't matter if you don't want to do this anymore. We have to do this. This is not a maybe I want to do this. No, this is we have to do this at this point. Right. And you have to inspire. Oops, sorry about that again.
Yeah, you're good.
We have to inspire them with the why, right? And we have to constantly remind them of the why. One of the things I ask all my people to do is write your why down. Put it in your mirror, right? Put a picture of what the inspiration is. And every time you brush your teeth or every time you do something in the morning, whatever, you see it and you're mentally focused from the moment you get up. You see it. This is why I don't feel like doing this today, but this is why I'm doing it and I'm going to do it. Yeah. The mental aspect, once again.
Yeah. It's so hard to try and find people, you know, to be able to connect and get that motivation. Because I think for me, that's probably one of the number one reasons that people don't, you know, get a gym membership or get a program or get a structure. Okay. Part of it is definitely financial, you know, and I respect that.
Of course.
But I think a lot of it is the motivation. You know, I just simply don't feel like doing it today. Mm-hmm. So if you come up with your supplement line and you have a motivational pill,
I got you.
Let me know.
Well, I understand what you're saying because, you know, and RJ could probably attest to this, but, you know, like my current job now, you know, is very mentally draining every day, day in and day out. When I get home, I have zero motivation to do anything. I want to, but there's zero motivation, you know, and so like he was saying about mental, it takes that mental strength and that focus to even be able to get past that. Like I'm drained, I'm over it. You know, even if a rider, it could even be a rider, he's worn out from riding that day. You know, to have the mental strength to push past that, and you know, you got to go to the gym or you got to do this program. That's got to be. I would imagine that's got to be hard for you to motivate them to do that. Or it's not.
No, it's really not. Once again, we're kind of creatures of pattern, right?
Yeah.
So you're saying you're in your job every day. I'm mentally tired. I'm drained. I just don't want to.
I don't even want to do this podcast right now. I'm kidding.
But here's the thing, right? So if someone's been sitting around, their pattern's been just sitting around for the last 3-4 years, right? But they want to run a 5K, right? That's their new goal. They want to run a 5K, and they just get up and start walking. You know, I'm going to start walking. And then the next day they're walking a little further. Next day they're walking a little further. All of a sudden you've got tons of energy, right? So sitting in your complacence or in your pattern where you're sitting in your comfort and you're sitting there, that's why you have no energy, because you're literally giving yourself no energy. You're not eating correctly. You're not exercising correctly. Those are the things that create the energy that you need to live the life you're actually wanting.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's almost a reverse effect, right? Yeah. I'm comfortable. I'm sitting here. I don't know why I have no energy. Well, you have no energy because you're not doing anything.
Well, and that's
And I'm not saying that,
I'm thinking
you
it's
haven't done anything all day.
I think it's testosterone, bro.
Listen, blood test.
I just got it done last week.
You were saying,
Yeah.
we were talking about vitamins earlier. We have to find the deficiencies that we have in our life. We don't just, you just said, I think these were your words earlier, we don't just take something just to take it because someone told us to take it.
Right.
We have to identify what we're lacking, right? We either create the correct meal plan for that to fix that, or if we don't, if our doctor says, well, you've got an iron deficiency, you're taking an iron pill, right?
Right.
So you have to identify what you're lacking and then fill that void.
Well, and like you talk about kind of being results driven or watching, using your studies. And one of the things, and I'll definitely give him a shout out on here. Gary Brecka is very famous. He's got multiple, YouTube's podcasts, a lot of health, very natural based. We talk about in some of his stuff, hydrogen water. But one of the things, and this is kind of something that goes to what Shane said, one of the things that he mentioned on one of his podcasts that I listened to is that I want to say, and don't hold me to this, I'll have to go back and find the exact stat, but I want to say he said that 90% of people after the age of 30 never sprint.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that. I've never listened to his podcast, but I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
It's a weird stat because we think of sprinting as a child, like I got to run a 4:40.
Right.
No, it's just your total exertion for a distance, right? For a short burst of distance.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you have to get up and just to throw a motocross athlete I was training, James Max. James is 50 years old.
Right.
I started having him do sprints. He told me, man, I haven't felt this good in years. I'm like, because you're active, big muscles, big heart. All this stuff is stored within these big muscles. You start utilizing that, you start gaining the effects from it.
Yeah, and that same podcast that he was talking about, that I want to say he said 90% of people after the age 30 no longer sprint. Mm-hmm. The other thing that he led to with that was that as you age, you're searching for comfort and complacency. Like your aging is searching for comfort. Mm-hmm. You can look at some of these guys and, knock on wood, he was one of the greatest guys in the motocross community. And it's even hard to talk about in passing, but Robert Noah. Yeah. Robert Noah was an incredible, true story about the guy was in incredible shape. You never would have thought he was the age that he was. Because he was so active, and he would go and go and go. I would call him the Energizer Bunny. Yeah. I'm like, he never quits. And that's why, when I'm watching and doing some of this research that I'm doing on my own as well, that you and I've talked about beforehand, is, when you don't sprint after 30, I couldn't tell you the last time I sprinted. Mm-hmm. I'm 35 years old right now. I went for a jog the other day, but that's definitely not a sprint. Right. And you search for, like you're talking about, you come home, you're mentally drained, you're exhausted, you've had a long day, you've put in 12, 14-hour day, mm-hmm. and you come home and the first thing you want to do is, I'm going to sit on the couch, watch some TV and relax. Mm-hmm. Well, if you change that and you go into, hey, I'm just going to do a 15-minute walk or a 30-minute walk or a spin on my, now we're going to start taking the right steps. And
there's your start.
And you mentioned a goal a little bit ago, and I encourage anybody that wants to do it, that listens to the podcast, I'll do it with you. But I just signed up for the 5K by the Bay, which is in April.
Well, we did that two years ago?
We did it 2 years ago, and that's the last 5K I think that we did.
We went into that and not knowing if we were going to run the whole thing, and we ended up running the whole dang thing.
Jogging, yes.
Well, we jogged, but we ended up doing the whole thing in
33 minutes.
And then we did the one over here that was nothing but hills, and we crushed that. You did vomit, but
yeah, I threw up everywhere afterwards. But having a goal,
yes,
right? So started walking. Last weekend, Shane and I were at an event. We actually went for a jog or a run. First time I've done 4 miles in probably 10 to 15 years. Yep. So you start getting those small things. And now instead of, hey, I'm just going to come home and, crack a beer and sit on the couch and watch TV. Now I'm going to come home, I'm going to jump on the Peloton for 30 minutes. Or now I'm going to come home and, even after a long day, I might not have done a lot of physical exertion, but I'm still going to do the ice bath just because I want to get into recovery and get the endorphin release and the protein release and, get some of those things going. So it's trying to change that pattern that you were talking about, instead of just coming home and saying, woe is me, I'm tired, I'm done. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you just got to make that commitment and say, hey, today.
The hardest part is standing up.
Yeah.
Right? Saying I'm going to do it. Standing up, getting up off the couch or getting up while where you're sitting, just standing up.
Yeah, right? but then executing it. Yeah. You know, and I think that's part of the thing about the ice bath that is so rewarding is it's not only is it doing well for your body and releasing the endorphins, the proteins that helping with inflammation or inflammatory, it also helps with mental clarity. But the fact that you committed to doing it, because one of the hardest things to do is get in.
Oh, yeah.
And then once you're in, that first minute is just absolutely miserable. But once you cross through and, you know, I set a little timer on my watch.
Yeah.
And when that thing hits 3 minutes, man, I'm out of that as fast as I can go. But the fact that I said I was going to do it, I committed and got in, I got through the worst part, I got out. Now I feel amazing. And I think having that feeling, once you get that feeling a few
That's an
times,
accomplishment.
oh man, that's a game changer. That's a game changer.
I think what's unique about your setup is that you work because, you know, like there's a lot of trainers in the motocross industry.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
A lot of great ones.
yeah. Not, but like I've never, and maybe there are, but I've never heard of guys that branch out of the motocross thing and take on what you're taking on as far as other athletes and even weight loss people or whatever the issue may be that people are searching for. I don't hear that much, you know, with a lot of these guys that are involved in motocross.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question that goes off of that. Which came first for you? Was it helping other sports, weight loss people, clientele, or was it motocross? Which kind of came first, or did it all kind of fall in about the same time?
As far as
Like
what I was doing, it started out as like 77 Fitness, or what's the question?
Like, did you start off as far as helping athletes in other sports and then you kind of got into motocross, or did you kind of start with motocross and then it branched out to other sports?
Well, the first coaching job I ever had was at Springstead High School.
Okay.
I was the high school baseball coach there.
Okay.
And I think I was maybe 25 years old at that time. And I kind of identified, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, in the Marine Corps, I led Marines. I was, you know, you find out that you're a leader, you know, there, or someone that's told what to do. I knew right then and there in the Marine Corps that, you know, one, that I was an absolute animal when it came to anything fitness-wise. And coming home and becoming a coach at the school and realizing, like, man, like, I'm actually helping these kids. Like, these kids believe in me, and I got a knack for this. Like, I can do this. I think I was at Springstead 3-4 years or something like that. Ended up getting married, started having my own kids, so I didn't have the time for it. So that's when motocross really started coming in. And the first rider I started working with, actually, we had a few riders. We had John McConnell and then Troy Davis, right?
Oh, yeah. Know both of them very well.
Yeah, we had them, and man, Troy and I started traveling the country.
Yeah.
I started traveling the country.
Yeah, they're right here in our backyard.
Yeah, oh yeah, local boys.
Yeah.
And started traveling the country, and I'm like, man, I really love this. Like, so playing all these sports my entire life, motocross was always the one for me.
Yeah.
For me personally, right?
Passion.
As far as coaching, I mean, I've fought in the MMA ring. I've done pretty much everything, right? But motocross has always had my heart.
Yeah.
Always. Just for my own passion, my own love. Like, I could sit at the track all day and just be at the happy. It could be freezing. I think a couple of weeks ago we were at Gatorback and it was freezing out there.
Was.
And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Yeah.
Having the greatest time of my life because I'm just there at the track. But I would say what started it was in other sports. But once I knew I could evolve into the motocross, like that's where my heart's at.
Yeah. No, it's cool. When you talk about your day-to-day grind, you talked about that you are training people at
Epic Health and Fitness every day. I get up. I'm there 6:30 in the morning.
Okay.
Every morning till about 12:30. Then I either go to your place. I'm there 3-4 days a week. I'm out there.
Okay.
I also do a little on the bike training for beginner riders. It's kind of like a passion of mine, helping them get started.
Yeah.
It's nothing fully detailed. I mean, obviously we're developing the riders. But it's also just helping them because you see the riders at the track. They don't even know how to go to the gate. They don't know how to do simple things of how to even tie down their bike, right?
Right.
So you get in that world and you get to help those people. I I forgot where I was going with this, but
Well, I was just talking about, kind of the day-to-day or the weekly
Yeah,
grind,
oh,
right? So you got the Epic
Yeah.
Epic Health and Fitness, which is in Spring Hill.
Yeah.
So if somebody wanted to go do gym workout, they could go, meet you there, and I'm assuming you could do some personal training one-on-one in the gym.
Yep.
And then you've got some program work you can do off where if somebody wanted to do it on their own schedule, on their own time, they can do program side.
Yep.
If it's specific, sport, athlete, whatever, it doesn't matter. You can kind of tailor that program towards them.
Correct.
But then you also have the moto side as well, which is obviously where we, are tied in together is in the moto side.
Yep.
So that's fun. But when you look at all of the topics that we've discussed so far, and again, the program, do you think is structure probably the biggest part of it? I mean, having an actual program. I mean, because all of those things that we've talked about fall into a program or fall into a structure.
Absolutely.
So having that structure and having that program, is that probably one of the biggest keys of this is, having the ability to have your structure or program in place?
Absolutely. So just for instance, my meal plans that I give all of my clients, whether they're riders, diet plans, so fully detailed, what time to eat, exactly what to eat, the recipes. They get a shopping list. So when they get their full meal plan, it's 7 days.
Wow.
Eat at 7, eat at depending on their goals. Some eat 4 meals a day, some eat 5 meals a day, depending on what their specific goals are, right? Tells them exactly what time to eat it, exactly what portions to eat. And like I said, there's a shopping list. So
That's pretty-
literally take that shopping list.
That's pretty detailed.
It's absolutely detailed. But their fitness plans are all they're every night they get different. So tonight's Tuesday. I'm gonna send out their fitness plans for Wednesday. Obviously everyone's work schedules are different, so they do it at a different time. But
Yeah.
hey, when you're done, text me that you're done. My phone's sitting here right now, just going off.
Probably
People are
blowing up over there.
probably sending me pictures of what they got and things like that. I try to put their program specific to them on their specific day or their specific structure.
Yeah. No, how nice would that be to have a shopping list where you could actually go get exactly what you need?
Yeah.
I know I go to the shopping grocery store or whatever, and I have a list of 4 things, and I end up coming out with 25.
That's how we get off track. Right? You're walking around the grocery store. I think I'd rather have this,
Yeah.
I think I'll have this. But, you could literally do yours online, so you don't have to go in the store. So I have my shopping list. I need 8 ounces of beef. I need 6 ounces of chicken. I need 4 ounces of whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Order it online, pick it up. You don't even got to go in the store and waste your time, for one. And you don't have to have that distraction of, I think I want to make a cake tonight.
That would be me.
Yeah.
So, kind of wrapping up some of our final questions here. Cory, for you, as the amount of years that you've been doing this, all the way from the Marines through teaching kids in baseball, coming out of that and creating your businesses and the multiple different things you're going, I know you mentioned supplements, and that's one thing that I am interested or curious in. I know there's a lot of different brands out there, and a lot of great products, right? I'm not going to knock any of them.
Excellent.
There's Arma, there's Rhino Power, there's multiple, even whey proteins, things like that. I know when we talked about some of the other podcasts that we talked about, it's not as simple as just, hey, go take a 1-a-day men's vitamin, because if you're already sufficient in a certain level, then you don't really need more. You're just wasting it, finding things that you're deficient in. But as far as the supplements go and the products that are out there, and I know you're talking about coming out with your own line,
Sure.
But do you think that those are essential right now, for someone that's trying to get into this cardio or exercising? Do you think it's a little bit simpler than that of let's start the structure first, let's start executing the structure, and then once you get to a certain level, do the supplements come in?
No, absolutely not. The first thing I do is I make them write, just for instance, any client that I have, the first thing they do is write down what they eat for 5 days.
Yeah.
Everything. Unfortunately, people start cheating and eating a little better during that 5 days, and I know that.
Right.
But I want you to write down everything you drink, everything you eat. If you drank 5 beers, I don't care. Just write it down.
Right.
If you ate 3 steaks, I don't care. Write it down. And I identify what they eat. I literally go in and calculate every bit of calorie, right? But day 1 after that, they eat what I say.
Yeah.
They eat what I say. Because if you're going to put your body through, it doesn't matter what the depth of the exercises that I'm giving. It's strenuous to your body, right? So if I'm straining your body, I need to feed it and recover it not 6 months down the road when you're in a better shape, right? I need to do it instantly. So one, we're building healthy lifestyle patterns, and I'm also feeding and giving the nutrients to the body as we're developing it and going on.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
Have you ever had a client that doesn't eat all day?
90% of the people think, oh, I'll eat once a day. Well, I don't know what the problem is. Well, you're eating one huge meal, right? One of the biggest things I get is once I give them the meal.
Because I'm guilty, bud. I drink coffee in the morning, then I eat dinner.
It's the worst thing you can do.
Oh, probably.
for so many reasons. One, so your body needs so much protein, so many carbohydrates through the day, right? But it can only synthesize, only utilize so many in one sitting. So for instance, let's just use protein, right? How much do you weigh?
Like $1.85.
$1.85. So just basic fitness math, you need 185 grams of protein a day to sustain who you are and what you are today, right? So if you're eating once and you just ate 185 grams of protein at dinner, right, which probably be pretty tough to do, your body's only going to synthesize 40 to 50 grams of that, and it's going to use the rest of it as waste.
Gotcha.
Right? And the other effect is the body is very smart. It's a very intelligent thing, right?
Smartest computer in the world.
It's insane. So what it's going to do is it's going to go into shock and say, well, we're only getting one meal a day. I better store as much fat as I can because fat is useful energy. I mean, we don't want to be fat, but unfortunately the body's smart. And it's going to store it and say, we're not going to survive unless I store this fat, right? So you store that fat within your body eating once a day because you're shocking it. If you continually eat throughout the entire day, the body's going to say, we're getting another meal. Let's utilize this for energy, right?
Yeah.
We talked about the ATP cycle. I don't want to get too scientific, but we talked about the ATP cycle earlier. Yeah. And most people think that if I have all this body fat on me, that the body's going to utilize fat for energy. Well, that's not correct. And within the ATP cycle, it's going to use whatever's in your stomach, the glucose in your blood. But the next thing it uses is muscle, because muscle is readily available for energy instantly. It takes like 4 hours for the body to start burning fat for energy. It takes like 15 minutes for it to start burning muscle for energy. So all that muscle that burns the fat for us is just going out by the wayside.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to add to that, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I heard a podcast listening to, when you do a large meal, like I know a lot of people talk about doing 6 smaller meals throughout the day, but if you do a large meal, the amount of, I don't know if it's vitamins, minerals, blood that rush to try and help with that digestive tract is so bad for you that, kind of what you're saying is you're terrible.
I'm killing myself.
But when you do these huge, large meals, there's so much that goes into your body. Like, now we got to focus on digesting all this stuff.
Gut health is so important.
That it takes away, available resources to be able to function to do other things, because it's all going into this big meal. And I mean, I always know when you get done eating a big meal, people walk out like, oh my God, I'm so full. Yeah. Well, what's happening is that all your energy, all your nutrients, whatever, I don't know, I'm not a doctor again, but you can tell when you've had a big meal because you almost feel drained. Like, man, I just had all this food, but now I'm tired. I want to go lay down. And because you've shoved all this food into one area, now everything's going into that.
To process it and digest it.
Yeah. So I wanted to see if that was accurate. Final thing. What is one of the hardest parts about being a trainer as far as athletes in this? I'm not talking about just a professional athlete. I'm all the way down to the mom that reaches out and sees, or the one that's wanting to lose, some weight, an athlete. What has been one of the biggest struggles or hurdles that you've had to go through, going through this process, of being the trainer?
Simply, man, breaking their old patterns.
Yeah.
Breaking their old patterns. People become so accustomed to doing things a certain way, and they find the little rights in there. I mean, we were talking a little bit earlier. You said, I wish we knew about healthy foods. Like, we really all know what healthy foods are. I mean, vegetables, beef, eggs, salt. Salt's so amazing for you. Yeah. Sugar's horrible for you, right? Right. But breaking their old patterns where they just become so accustomed to living life in a certain way, right? They know their goals, they know where they want to go, but they're still sitting in this area saying, I can't do this. Like, I want to be here, but I'm stuck here. How do I get there? Yeah. And the hardest part is saying, stop doing what you're doing. You can't continue to do the same thing over and over trying to get to here and expect to get there, right?
Yeah, you're not going to get the result you want if you're not making any effort to get there.
Breaking their old patterns, because people, like I said, people are they're in that comfort level.
Yeah.
They're comfortable coming home. They're comfortable sitting there all day. Not all day, but you got 3-4 hours after work. I got my kids. I really don't want to spend 30 minutes on myself or 45 minutes on myself. But in all actuality, that 45 minutes is going to extend everything that you can offer to your family and extend to offer to the people that you care about and the people around you. And whatever, even your own job, right? If you come in, you've had a healthy meal for breakfast, you got your snacks all lined up. You come in energetic. If you worked out before work, you're coming in, you're energetic. You're able to give yourself or more of yourself to what your own passions are, what your own commitments are.
Yeah, it's tough for people that have an early work schedule. Like I have to be at work early. I got a meeting or whatever it may be. But I will say, and I think it's the sense of accomplishment. Whenever I do have an opportunity to do an exercise in the morning, and even Shane and I, when we were at a very good friend of ours' wedding last weekend, and we got up that morning and we went for a run first thing in the morning. We got done. We rented a bicycle from the front desk of the hotel we were at. We actually rode our bicycle to breakfast.
Together?
Yeah, both of us with our wives.
On a tandem.
And to look at the clock when we got done, we were walking back towards our hotel rooms and said, hey, we're going to take a shower, get ready. It's 10 a.m.
No, it was 9:30.
9:30, and we've already done a 4-mile jog, a 4-mile bike. We've had breakfast, and we're back in our hotel room.
And everybody in the wedding party, or not whatever the wedding party, but pretty much everybody in the hotel wasn't even awake yet because they were partying last night,
Yeah. That feeling of accomplishment, though, look at what we just did. I mean, I closed my exercise ring before 9:30. That is rare for me, And even on days that I do have to go to work, I mean, if I have the ability to wake up early and, whether it's 4:30 or 5 in the morning and do a 30-minute spin on the Peloton in my bedroom before I, shower and get dressed and ready to go for the day, you carry that energy throughout the day. So I think for me, and I know this is difficult for people with their schedules, and some people have different, night shifts and whatnot, but if I have the ability to work out in the morning, I would prefer to do mornings over evenings.
Oh, yeah. Because, I mean, think about it. You guys are working out all day in the well, drilling wells. You're out there. You come home and you're more likely to convince yourself, I'm too tired. I don't want to do this. Right. So some people don't have that choice. That's the only thing they can do. They're dropping kids off at school. They can't leave their house or go to the gym because their situations don't allow it. Right. Yeah. But the most ideal time is first thing in the morning. Get it out the way, get that energy, move on, keep going.
So if you were to try and tell somebody right now that might not be able to afford a program, or say, hey, I want to come on board and be a client of 77 Fitness, would you say for them, I mean, even at home exercises, whether it's in your garage or in your bedroom, wake up an extra 30 minutes earlier, do some push-ups, do some crunches, do some jumping jacks, do something.
Go for a walk.
Yeah, I mean...
do something.
Yeah, just get your blood flow going, get your heart rate elevated in the morning, 15, 30 minutes, whatever you can do, and then start your day.
Yeah, absolutely.
That would be ideal.
Get up and do anything. Walking is one of the best fat-burning things you can do, right? People think if I jog, if I run, then I'm going to burn all this fat, right? So we were talking about heart rate, target heart rates or zones.
Yeah.
Well, you get above a certain heart rate, 130. Now you're in a cardiovascular state. You're working on your lungs, your heart. Walking, your heart rate's low, so it's burning fat in that stage, right?
Yeah.
And you're also building the pathways for your blood to be able to deliver to your muscles. Walking is a key thing.
Yeah.
All the time. I mean, I have my highest athletes walk.
Yeah.
For certain recovery aspects.
Yeah.
Are there different levels in your programs?
Absolutely. Here's the thing. I wouldn't call them levels. They're just everything is individualized for me.
Yeah.
I do have weight loss clients that have similar situations, similar weight that they're trying to lose. So theirs are pretty much mimicked to each other. Mm-hmm. But as far as meal plans, things like that, the way I identify what their inspirations are, everything has to be individualized. If you want to be effective, there are programs out there where you can mass produce, and it may work. You know what I mean? But they're not going to get their maximum potential unless you individualize it for that specific person.
Right.
Yeah. So in your situation, you're almost making it unique to the individual, custom tailored
Absolutely.
To their situation.
Yes, sir.
And that could be not only their goal, but also their budget. Is that possible?
What do you mean?
like not only trying to go what their goal is, but let's say they have a budget and they say, listen, I can't afford to do this, 7-day, whatever program. Is there a way that someone could come in, or I can't make it to Epic, Health and Fitness in Spring Hill between 6 a.m. and 1 p.m. in that window, but could you write me a program that I could do at home?
Absolutely.
So
here's the thing with I mean, obviously I have a family to support. I want to make money, but
Yeah.
my whole backing and my whole idea of this is to help people.
Yeah.
Right. Help them get out of their own way and get them started.
Yeah.
A lot of my in-person clients, I tell them straight up, you're not going to be my client for long. I'm going to teach you what you got to do, and you're going on your own. Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to teach you how to eat. I'm going to teach you how to exercise. And the whole idea is for you to move on. Right. And then I can get the next person in and move on.
Yeah.
But for the people that can't afford it, I mean, I'll create a way to help you. If it's just you don't need the nutrition portion, or you just need the nutrition. You don't need the exercise. You're doing your own basic things. I can customize. I mean, it's just me.
Yeah.
I can customize it to fit any program, any person, any detail of their life.
Well, it's very similar, and I think that's why it's a great alignment. You're the sole fitness trainer out at Future MX's facility right now, which Future MX was built with the idea of helping kids.
Yes, sir.
And potentially, and I don't want to say that it's somebody that's maybe less fortunate or not, because that's not accurate. It's the goal, the whole name and the brand of Future MX was created to try and give someone a future in this sport that they may or may not have had the opportunity to do. Yeah. But by educating them, by teaching them, safer practices, how to become more efficient on the dirt bike, how to become better on the dirt bike, that's what Future MX was kind of founded on and brought about.
Well, not only that though, we've talked about this in the past, is the fact that you're giving them that opportunity in moto, but on top of that, you're giving them possibly lifelong lessons.
Sure. Yep.
As far as responsibility, work ethic, whatever it may be.
Being accountable.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I agree with that too. And I think that's one of the things, we had a very open, I mean, anybody that's listened to our podcast for any period of time, no matter what the platform it is, we've been open to what it took to do an amateur race team. We did what it took to do a professional supercross team when we did East Coast Supercross last year. And, you look at the numbers and even, the amount of money that was spent, which we've talked about previously. I mean, you can go back and listen to any of those episodes. I mean, tons of money go out the door. But for now, with us switching over towards this, facility and this property to help, train and educate and teach these kids, and again, potentially give them a future in motocross, either at the professional ranks or continue to ride the way that they want to ride right now. It's very similar to your goals as well with 77 Fitness, is being able to educate and teach and train and elevate these kids to continue to have a future.
Absolutely.
So I think that's awesome. Wrapping up with the final question here on episode 39, presented by 77 Fitness with Mr. Cory Noonan. What for you is probably the most rewarding thing that comes across with what you're doing?
I would say not the success of the athlete. I would say when you see these athletes turn into real good young men and women,
yes.
Like you see that they develop, because some of these guys are young, these girls are young, developing into good human beings, right?
Right.
Taking everything that they see that people are here to offer some help, and then they pass it on to somebody else. Yeah. That they take everything that happened to them and was built for them, and they start passing it on to the next generation and the next, because sport, right? We love it.
Yeah.
And the only way it's going to pass on if there's people like us around here that are willing to help. So then when I see that they are doing that, that's my greatest reward.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%.
No, I agree with that also. And a lot of people ask us all the time, why do we do what we do, with the Future MX, and, why do you guys go so far involved with, having a semi and an awning and helping people, and, there's zero financial return when you go run a professional supercross team. I mean, anybody that has done it or has followed this podcast, for a while knows that it's extremely expensive sport, and especially doing it at that level. But when you get to see, a well-respected young man or young lady, and they go out there and they're a positive impact to their community, and you've got 100%. Little kids that are looking up to them, and, you've taught them in your case, you've taught them, the training or gym, nutrition, cardio side of it. In my case, you've taught them to be accountable. You've taught them about budgeting and, being on time, and you've got to be at this place at this time. And you work out those logistics, and they get to learn and see. That's called life.
Absolutely.
And when you get to do that, that's where some of the rewarding is. But wrapping it up, Cory, anything that you want to add, to the podcast, or anything you want to close, any closing comments?
One thing, I just want to send a prayer out for Tate. Tate's going to his surgery tomorrow. That's Kyle Cheeseman and Brianna Cheeseman's son.
Yeah.
He's got the surgery tomorrow, so I just want to send up some prayers for him. Hopefully everything is good. Pray that the doctors are there for him in their best capacity, and everything goes well.
Absolutely.
I know their whole family's up there. Barry, Andrea. Just pray that they're all good, and everything turns out real well.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
Very good.
Yep. Well, we're grateful to have you here, Cory, and we thank you for all the insight. And anybody that's wanting to reach out, again, 77 Fitness, yes, Cory Noonan. It's on Instagram, Facebook. Anybody that wants to reach out. And again, if for some reason you don't have a chance to reach out to Cory and you want to reach out to us, or even comment below on some of our YouTube, comments, or Instagram, whatever it may be, feel free to reach out to us, and we can get you in contact with Cory as well. We greatly appreciate your time, Cory. Sugar, anything closing up?
No, I think I'm good, man, for today.
TC?
No, happy 39th.
TC's been quiet back there.
He has been quiet. Well, I want to say to everybody, thank you for listening, and please make sure you subscribe. Follow us on all the different platforms. We greatly appreciate that. We need that. It helps us continue to do these. So subscribe, follow, like, share, whatever the stuff that you got to do to get the word out there. Thank you again, Mr. Cory Noonan, 77 Fitness. 39 in the books.
All right.